Welcome to the Be Still, Be Aware series, where nothing is off limits. I'm your host, Claire Foord. Let's talk. Hi there. Thanks for joining us for the Be Still, Be Aware series. I'm joined by Lauren Hewes, a mother, personal trainer, and public speaker. Lauren will be taking us through her journey of pregnancy and also stillbirth, and how to take the tiny steps to heal your body after loss, and how physical exercise can actually be not only self-rewarding, but can also help your body heal itself, and how you can connect with your body after birth, regardless of outcome. So thanks for joining us, and let's talk.
Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which this series is recorded and pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging.
Thank you so much for joining me, Lauren. I know that you're zooming in from Victoria, so I'm just going to get started straight away. Perhaps you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you professionally and personally, and then I'd love to hear your story.
Hi Claire, thanks so much for having me here. I'm thrilled to bits to be able to share my story and my experience with my pregnancies and my journey following my pregnancies in returning to exercise and on my health and fitness journey. I came to be on this current journey through a range of experiences, professional and personal, and it's through those professional and personal experiences that I blend my knowledge into helping women on their path post-pregnancy with varying degrees of outcome. So my story, it began in 2009. I guess my fitness journey began a lot earlier than that, in high school, and moving into physical education in university and being a PE teacher, and then that slowly morphed into me being a personal trainer and Pilates instructor, and then it sort of evolved into a blend of various different exercise techniques that I was really gravitating towards, and I was extremely fit and healthy myself, and being married for a couple of years in 2009, and I found myself pregnant during a triathlon training session. Wow. I found out that I was kind of pregnant. I had a feeling, it just didn't feel right. I was doing my run and felt a bit strange. So I had that confirmed to me, and it was such delightful news for myself and my husband. It was the summer of 2009, and I pretty much was in that height of my work. I had my own business at the time with Zen Body, and I had my own studio, personal training and Pilates, and I sort of had to, when I found out I was pregnant, I sort of had that, I guess, textbook pregnancy where I got quite sick early on, and I had to pull back from my training sessions. Had to have paper bags at the ready.
Wow. The fun stuff of early pregnancy.
Oh, it was, yeah. In hindsight, I do laugh at that time of the pregnancy, because it was just so horrible in a sense that you just felt I couldn't do what I wanted to do, and I thought pregnancy was supposed to be, let's just dance through this, and but it didn't really happen that way. So
I think that's so important for people to realize, is that everybody's totally different. And despite what everyone thinks in this blissful, pregnant life, that some people don't get that, fabulous, I just feel a little bit sick, or a little bit, and I know I'm pregnant and just swan through, but some people do. So I think that's a really important point to start on, is the fact that, you felt gross and pregnant, and, were physically sick. I think it's important for those that are listening and watching to understand that, and whatever your journey is on in terms of your pregnancy, there's no one size fits all, and you might be the person who can't work through your first trimester. So, as much as we all, and this is where we need to have these conversations more, so we can have sensitive workplaces and understanding in the community that it isn't a one size fits all, and pregnancy isn't something that just happens, and a baby doesn't just appear. Your body goes through so much And in your case, it presented in, physical ailments of feeling sick and physically being sick. So continue. Sorry, I wanted to just touch on that because I think that's so important.
That's absolutely perfect as well to jump in, because it's absolutely right. I work with quite a number of women now who are going through their pregnancy and they're fine, I'm fine, I feel fine. And they're able to keep up with their exercise regime, or they're able to keep up with work. And it was just such a different experience for me. So everyone, absolutely, every pregnancy is individual, and even subsequent pregnancies with the same mother are completely individual as well. So you'll get different feelings. So in terms of the sickness, the morning sickness, that slowly abated, and I got to feeling energized again. I started to work a little bit more as well, and started to feel the movements, and passed all the tests with flying colours, those early sort of prenatal tests. And tracking along fine. It was just, everyone was sort of getting excited about the delivery and meeting my baby, and everyone from my friends and my family and my clients, my local greengrocer that tracking the size and how's it going this week, and just following your journey along, perhaps putting in their 2 cents. And
your village was broad. It sounds like I love that your local greengrocer having his own 2 cents worth. I think that's also a really important thing to say, because everyone's involved. So
everyone is, they're part
absolutely. Of this journey. Love it.
Everyone's following your journey, and whether they be a close personal connection to you or just an acquaintance. And this sort of comes into play post delivery as well, because it's all of those sorts of people that have been involved, and that communication sort of happens post. So it was all tracking along fabulously, and I was getting very big and very close to my due date, and being monitored very, very closely by my obstetrician. And it was approaching the due date, and I had all those feelings of nervousness and just wonder, but counteracted with those feelings of excitement and delight, and just aching to meet my baby, and to look into their eyes, and to hear them cry, and to feel their tiny finger wrap around mine. And it's all those little things that you don't necessarily express to other people, but they're there within you, with your growing baby, and that connection that you make with your baby as well. So it was past that due date. So I went 2 days past my due date, where I went in for routine obstetrics monitoring, and everything was going really well. But on that Wednesday morning, I hadn't really felt the movements as much, or really at all, I should say, because I would wake up in the morning and my baby was raring to go. A few kicks here. I'd have a shower, a few tumble turns, if they could do it at that late stage of pregnancy. But, I really, really distinguished that time of day that my baby was active, and that was normal for me. Yeah. And so that normal had changed. And reflecting on it post experience, I reflected back, and I thought, that normal actually changed perhaps the day before, and I recognized it, but I actually didn't act on it. So so I went in with my mum.
Sorry.
No.
You established, and you knew this pattern of routine, and you were aware of something feeling different and the behavior being different. But did you know that was something to worry about? Like, as in, did you think actually that's unusual, or did you go, okay, well, that's different, but why? I don't need to tell anyone. Like, is it something that you knew about, that movements were an indicator of a baby's health and well-being? Was your, you were closely monitored, you said, and cared for, and you were over your due date. Is this something that your care provider had discussed with you, you know, when to call and things like that, or not?
That's a really interesting point. At that stage, my pregnancy, I was considered extremely low risk. I was very healthy. I was very fit. And I also, it was my first pregnancy, so I was quite naive to know what questions to ask, or I knew the foods I couldn't eat. I knew that perhaps I shouldn't sleep on my back if it got uncomfortable, or on my stomach if it got uncomfortable. I knew that. But in my head at the time, I had a yellow slip, a physical yellow slip for the hospital that I would take with me. And I would give that to midwives when I go into my perfect labour that I thought that I would be having. I'll go into my labour and I'll take my yellow slip in. It was at the time where I was driving home about 2 days before my due date, and my husband was driving, and I said to him, something doesn't feel right. I don't feel right here. I think I'm having contractions, but in my head I had read Braxton Hicks contractions. That's just Braxton Hicks. I don't think I wanted to believe that I was actually going to be delivering this baby. I just thought it would just appear. But
and also, if you don't know any different, like, you know, you said you're first time mum, how were you to know? Like, this is where you need somebody to communicate and have that conversation with you of what to look out for, what to report, what is it, what does it feel like, because we don't know. Like,
I have no idea.
This is where we need help. You know, it's not your responsibility to know those things, or to have to know the questions to ask. So you were in the car, you noticed that you were labelled as a Braxton Hicks at the time.
Yes. So that's the label that I'd put on it, because I'd heard that or I read that that's what happens. Or I'd also heard that babies' movements slow down towards delivery or the due date because they run out of room. And knowing the reality now that that's not true, they perhaps change in more of a push and a shove rather than a full-on kick because they run out of room, but the movements get stronger right to, delivery and throughout labour. So I was at a crossroads, and I remember the hospital, we were going to turn down, my husband said, "Don't want to take you to the hospital, it's just down the road there." And I said, "No, I actually don't have my yellow slip. I don't think I can go to hospital. I think they'll just turn me away. They won't actually take me through." So I don't know why that yellow slip was so important to me, but the yellow slip was given to me and had all my details on it, and I had to hand that. And I thought that I'd be turned away from the hospital because I actually didn't have my paperwork. So to be able to have the knowledge to say, at any time, drop whatever you're doing. If you need to, get to the hospital. It doesn't matter what you have with you. It doesn't matter if your bags are packed or not. Just come in if you notice anything different. So the movements were slowing down. Those contractions were starting, and that was sort of a crossroads, I guess, at that point, that I said, no, we'll just go home and I'll wait this out and see what happens. Where, if I was to explain to another pregnant woman, if you feel anything different or changing, or your gut feeling is telling you something different to normal, then just go and get checked. There's absolutely no reason not to. So that, I didn't take that turn. I went home and they sort of subsided, and then the movements, they were sort of decreasing, I would say, at that time. And I, once again, first time pregnancy, thought that I was fit, I was healthy. Millions of women have given birth before. Why should mine be any different?
My body shower, and you felt, that's normally when you would feel and connect with Bub, and you were like, hang on, this isn't the same. And then what happened? Take us from there.
So I had my shower in the morning, and I went on over to Mum, and I said, I've got to go in for my appointment. My mum was driving me, and my husband was at work, and Mum drove me in. She was unable to find a car park, so I said, I'll just go up and get monitored, and you go and find your car park. Went up to the monitoring room, and there were, I would probably say, 4 or 5 other pregnant women with their monitors on, and all beating away very loudly. Their bubbers were all fit and healthy, and just a little bit of a chit chat to the midwife. And just as she was about to put the monitors onto my belly, it was just so bizarre that it was like the heavens opened up and rain pelted down outside, crashed against the window. And it was just so startling that sort of everyone in the room was just like, what's going on? This is really unexpected, because it had been sunny coming in. So so that was a bit of a bit of a notable point, I guess, in my memory. But the midwives had placed the monitors on, and they really found it challenging to find a heartbeat. I had a really bad feeling on my way into the hospital. I remember pushing on just gently pushing on my stomach, and usually my baby would wriggle out the way. So don't push me, but that didn't happen. There was no wriggling. There was no pushing back. There was no, hang on a second, Mum, don't do that. I'm not comfortable. And so in my gut and in my heart, I knew that something wasn't right. But I didn't want to, I didn't want to accept that wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen. So the midwives had the heart rate monitors on the baby, and she was like, "Oh, it's a bit strange. Have some ice water. That'll get bubble moving." Had some ice water. Nothing. And then she found a faint heartbeat, and for a minute I was like, "Yes, there it is." But it was my heartbeat. And then the curtains were closed around me, and I thought, hang on a second, this is not good. So the curtains were pulled. My mum came in, she'd found her car park, and she just looked at me, and I just looked at her, and she's like, how's the baby? And I just looked at her, and I tried to put on a brave face. It's okay, Mum, everything will be okay. But it wasn't okay. No. At that stage, it had kind of sort of started sinking in as to what was going on. But my obstetrician was called, and I sort of found myself in a room by myself. I don't know how I got there, really. I don't know what happened in that meantime. I was just in a room by myself, and it was myself. I could hear my obstetrician. I could hear her high heels running down the hallway, like literally running. And she was just, dashing to be there. And you could just sort of feel that sense of urgency from her down the corridor. And she came in. She'd had with her a sonographer who I had a lot of my testing and ultrasounds with in the lead up. So he was a familiar face as well. And the sonographer had the ultrasound, did the ultrasound, looked at my baby's heart, and it was then and there that it was confirmed to me that my baby had died.
I'm so sorry, like that's just being in a room filled with the sound of babies' heartbeats, and you having to be confronted with a whooshing sound and then the sound of your own, and that glimmer of hope being stripped away from you. Oh God, like that is, it's like pure devastation. And the, pulling those curtains closed around you. Oh my gosh, it never gets easier hearing these sorts of stories. Like it's heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. And I certainly understand and definitely do empathize and understand where you might have been at that time. But yeah, like it doesn't make it easier. Oh, I'm just so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Thank you, Claire.
Yeah. So you used the real words then. You found out that your baby had died. Did they use the real words with you?
From what I can recall, the words that they used was, it was my obstetrician who said it. I can remember the sonographer looking at my obstetrician and kind of just giving her a little bit of a no. And my obstetrician was just that, I'm so sorry, Lauren, we cannot find your baby's heartbeat. Those were the words that my obstetrician used, yes. And knowing that my baby was no longer alive, and I'm just feeling so helpless and so alone. There's people around me, but I just feel so alone that I couldn't protect my baby. I couldn't keep my baby alive. And the wave of shame and guilt and love that I had, and the connection that I'd made with my baby that had been so dramatically ended or severed at that point, that I couldn't continue that love and I couldn't grow that bond and raise my baby. It was just, it just felt like in that moment, my whole entire soul and my whole entire being had been ripped out of my body, and it was just the shell. And I then had to get that shell moving to go through the delivery and the labor and the birth of my precious first baby. And that was the road ahead for those minutes and hours. I mean, I couldn't fathom to think beyond that at that stage. It was just, what do I have to do now? It was just something that you just don't wish upon anybody.
Debilitating, completely debilitating. How did you have to ring your husband?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was offered to me that...
How did you ring him? Yeah. I look and think, how do you, when they haven't really, I remember those words, there's, we can't find the heartbeat, there is no heartbeat. But what does that actually mean, And I think you do know. But I do think we have this fear of communication in so many ways. And it's almost makes it even more debilitating, because it's like, well, you can't even tell me what's going on properly. And then I picking up that phone, having to tell your husband, that would have been incredibly heartbreaking, on top of this already engulfing feeling of having everything ripped out of you.
It's almost an out-of-body experience, in terms of, I remember holding the phone. I remember sort of that shaky hold, that dialing, trying to find the number when you just cannot think clearly, and having people around and saying, do you want me to call? And I'm like, no, this is something that I need to do. And then not sort of trying to manage his safety in terms of leaving work, driving in a vehicle and getting to me. So I sort of thought, okay, I have to think about this, how I'm going to break it to him in a way that doesn't make, I mean, I had no control over it in the end, but to try and just explain to him that something terrible had happened, and not knowing what situation I was getting. I didn't know if he was in the middle of a meeting. I didn't know if he was out in the field. I didn't really know sort of what he was doing, but I just called him and I said, I'm in the hospital. And he obviously heard it in my voice, and he's just like, what's going on? What's going on? And I said, look, they're really struggling to find any movement or any signs of life. You need to come into the hospital right now. So that's how I said that to him. I said, they're really struggling to find signs of life. So it was then up to him to try and get into the hospital. But I do feel for that time in between of knowing but not being there, and that longing to be right there. And the story that I heard after what had happened was that my husband was actually driving into work that morning, and he found himself literally at the end of a rainbow. A rainbow was on his car, and he thought, oh gee, that's my baby. I've just got this feeling that that's my baby trying to tell me something. So so the rainbow symbol is very special to us. But that was what he experienced that morning, and he knew or felt that connection was more than just light on his car. So he says that as soon as he heard my voice, he knew that something was wrong, and he just dropped the phone, dropped everything, and just got in the car and came into the hospital.
I think, you know, I definitely understand you're referring to those signs, you know, that we grasp onto, that, you know, that make a horrific experience somewhat bearable. These little glimmers of hope that there is something, you know, like the rain pelting and crashing down when your world crashed down, and that beautiful you know, light beam, that sunbeam, the rainbow that, you know, was there ever present for Dad, is just so perfect, so surreal, but so intensely heartbreaking. But isn't that so interesting that he, you know, had this sense of, you know, peace and calm, but also went, hang on, like, I just, you know, he knew something wasn't right when, as soon as he picked up the phone, and he knew it was his baby, you know, speaking to him, speaking to his dad, you know, to Dad. I think that's just really, really important. So you know, you alluded to it, you know, before, then you had to sort of start thinking about, well, okay, I have to think about, you know, delivering my baby. So do you want to take us through that? I mean, you don't have to.
Absolutely.
Where would you like to take us in your journey now?
So I was given the option to either stay in the hospital or and deliver, be induced that evening, or I could go home for a few hours and come back and be induced that evening. So myself and my husband opted to head home, which brought with it a plethora of visual reminders, because the whole house was set up for a new baby. But we needed to go home. I needed to sort of get my things that I needed to have. I needed to mentally prepare for what my body had to do. And I just remember sitting on the couch with him, and he was just saying, this is just unfathomable. It's just so cruel and so hard, but we really need to focus on the next few hours. Let's keep you safe. He was saying how he was concerned for my safety at that point. So it was like standing at the bottom of that mountain, and you know that you had to get up there. You know that you didn't have any energy to get up there. You didn't have any training to get up there. You just had to get up there. And so I had to sort of get myself into that state of, okay, mentally preparing for the physical aspect of the delivery. So went back into the hospital that night, was induced, and just numb. It was just all very, very surreal. It didn't feel like it was happening. It was very out of body. It was, I was offered with whatever pain relief I needed, anything I needed, any mode of delivery I would like. It was offered to me. So I opted for a vaginal birth if possible. And that's the way that I went. So I was induced, and it took a very long time, 14-hour labour. I had the epidural. I remember the anaesthetist coming in, sort of shuffling in at the wee hours of the morning, and me being so completely numb. And I just remember her saying, you know, reading out all of the list of, I guess, going through all of the scenarios, you handing over, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. I just want to explain this to you before I administer your epidural. Do you understand? And do you give consent? And at that stage, I was like, just give me the epidural. I really don't mind about anything. Just do it. And I remember her saying, you just really need to keep still. And I wasn't moving. I was just completely numb. I was just a shell, sort of just completely numb. So keeping still, had the epidural, and then 14 hours later, so it was 12:15 the next day, just in the afternoon, that I delivered my baby boy. And he came into the world in a very quiet room. He came into the world with the love of myself and my husband. My midwife was there the entire time, and she's been there for all of my subsequent babies as well. My obstetrician was there, and the feeling in the room was really palpable. It was very calm, but it was very raw. It was very sad, but it was just so unbelievable that was actually happening. I got to hold my baby. I didn't get to look into his eyes. I didn't get to hear him cry, and I didn't get to feel his tiny fingers wrap around mine. And that moment there seemed to last for a very long time. That moment of disbelief, that moment of this is not happening. Then after that time passed, we named my son Alexander, and Alexander was perfect in every way. He had 10 fingers and 10 toes. He had a full head of hair. He was just a beautiful, perfect looking baby. He was a very heavy baby, but he was a very big baby, and which led to further tests down the road. But he was born, and he died without any reason, with any rhyme, without any reason, without any knowledge of what happened. There was nothing. I mean, every test was done for sure, but nothing was ever found about what caused him to pass away. So in those hours following, I remember the midwife asking me if I'd like to have some photos taken, and I couldn't fathom that. To me, that didn't sound, I wasn't in the headspace for it. And I remember her kind words, and she said to me, look, Lauren, I'm just going to take some photos. You won't sort of know that I'm taking them, but I'm going to take them. And if you don't want them, that's okay. But I'm really happy. I'm just going to take them for you. And if you would like to take them home with you, that's fine as well. And it was those photographs that mean everything to me right now. So my heart goes out to my midwife for saying that, and having those photographs of Alexander is just so precious to me. So to be able to assist a new mum who's lost their baby, and be able to have photographs or handprints and footprints and those small memorable physical memories, I guess, to have. Yeah.
And there's clearly, I was smiling as you were telling me, telling me of his birth, even though my heart's also breaking, because it's so evident, just the enormity of the love that you clearly have for Alexander, and and that love that you felt engulfing you in amongst all that grief. I mean, my gosh, there are so many emotions all in there. And what a wonderful gift that your midwife provided for your family, and for you to have those special physical memories, but obviously you have those beautiful memories of him throughout your pregnancy. But those little things that you point out that everyone just sometimes takes for granted, but you know, looking into his eyes and having his little fingers around yours, and, you know, being able to watch and be part of this for the longevity of his life, that was all snatched away from you. And it's absolutely, it's heartbreaking, and it makes me angry, because I listened to a lot of the things that you talked about, and it was really evident to me that there were so many things that they were happy to allude to and to make you aware of, but none that you needed. Like, your baby had died. Okay, but wait, I just have this protocol that I have to follow for the epidural. You have to consent to this in amongst your grief, because if I don't, I have a duty of care for you to quickly sign off on this. So do you know that X, Y, and Z, and I'm sure in there it was, you know, that you could, you know, become a paraplegic. Basically, they go to the worst case scenario in everything else, but you weren't offered that advice in your pregnancy. And the advice post-delivery, have photos. If you don't want them, you don't have to have them, but have them. Here is what you need right now, and I will help you to have these memories and these things and these moments to treasure. But yet, in the times when you desperately need it the most, you know, you had this affiliation with this yellow card that was obviously made aware to you that it was incredibly important that you held on to it and that you brought it in when you were delivering. But isn't it interesting that that piece of paper was never mentioned again in your story? As soon as you went in, it was like, well, who cares about the piece of paper? My world is crashing down on me. All of these other things that we could have had a conversation about, you know, where were those conversations, and why weren't we having those conversations? That's why I get, you know, cross and upset, because just like Alexander's, you know, sounds like beautiful and horrific simultaneously birth, you know, you weren't offered these tools for protection, and you should have been. But, and, you know, he was healthy and well, and should be here, and really could be, and that's just, it's heartbreaking. And I think, you know, kids change your life. I mean, I'm sure people will hear me say this a lot in this series too, because they really do, and it's really interesting and encouraging to see, I suppose, this life after loss, like what happens next. You know, this is he's your little boy, he's still your son, but what next? What do you do next? You know, you had Alexander, you had these beautiful photos, you weren't able to make more memories, but you have these moments in time to grasp to. Then what happens next?
What happens next?
Yeah, in your case, you know, with you.
So for me, I went home after a few days, and I was given enough time, as much time as I needed in the hospital. I got to see Alexander as much as myself or my husband wanted to or needed to at that time, and we got to hold him, we got to cuddle him. My parents came in, my in-laws came in, and that's all we sort of allowed to come into the room. So then we had the funeral to prepare. We had all of these things that were just in such a different world to what we thought we'd be in.
Well, no new parent prepares for that. Nobody expects that to be their parenting journey. Okay, so your baby's born, and, you know, now, Lauren, you have to organise a funeral for Alexander. I mean, that's just, you'd be kidding me. Like, seriously? Is there no special, you know, package and packet that you can just help me do all this? So you're lumped with all this extra.
Yes. The support was there, but it was definitely finding our way ourselves. And I was lucky enough to have a partner who was very supportive in doing a lot of that for me. But just, you know, researching cemeteries and where are we going to bury our son? Where are we going to, you know, be able to fathom that, how we need to have a cemetery that's going to be close to our house so we can go and visit, and just those thoughts that shouldn't happen. Like they shouldn't happen. And then to go and see all of the other babies there and think, why didn't I know about this in my pregnancy? I knew about stillbirth, but I knew about it from a distant cousin who had experienced it years before. And there was no talk about it. It was very, I thought that something must have gone wrong. Or she must have, something must have happened. Maybe she ate something, or I don't know, maybe she was on some sort of medication. I don't know what I was kind of thinking. I was very naive and very silly looking back at it. But I did go to the funeral for their baby, their beautiful baby girl. And I remember seeing the father of this precious baby girl carrying this tiny, tiny pink coffin. And I just thought, this is wrong. This shouldn't be happening. And to then go myself to the cemetery and see hundreds upon hundreds of sites that this has happened, and then discovering that I was one in 6 other women on that same day who lost their baby through stillbirth. It was just unfathomable that I didn't know about it in my pregnancy. It wasn't talked about. So going through the funeral, going through all of those formalities for that, then going through the grieving process after that, and grieving differently to my husband at different times, was very evident as well. And then being able, trying to absorb and process that that grieving journey, and then not really considering myself to be postnatal. So yes, I'd had a baby. Yes, my baby was 40 weeks and 2 days when he passed away. So he was full size. Yes, I went through the complete labor, the delivery. So I had all the physical considerations and complications that come along with that, and that recovery. But for whatever reason, I didn't see myself as postnatal. So I just wanted to turn my back on my body, to be honest. It failed me. It let me down. I wasn't able to keep my baby alive. This body is no use to me. So I then wanted to sort of step back into the body that I had before I was pregnant. So in doing so, I a month after I delivered Alexander, going through that grieving process, my husband and I sort of went away for a number of weeks just to get some space. And in that time, I remember going on a 10K hike up a hill and doing a lot of damage, physical damage to myself, walking 10Ks, thinking that I was good to go. I'd had my checkup and I was good to get back into the exercise where I'd left off. So, I ended up with further damage. Wow. So going back into exercise.
And that relates to, again, that conversation, maybe you didn't think of yourself as postnatal because nobody explained that you were, because you don't get those home visits that you do when your baby is alive. You are, sent away with, a broken heart and empty arms and, a somewhat broken body, like everybody who's had a baby and delivered a baby. And yet it's like, okay, well, good luck and fend for yourself. And so how are you to know what your body's meant to do? Again, it's your first pregnancy, your first delivery. And the fact that you do have to deliver the baby, that's the other thing. And you talk about your distant cousin that you had these thoughts of, and it's not naivety, it's actually, misinformation or ill-informed Nobody talks about it. So we have to change that. And I think, you know, you doing this and chatting about it with us, I hope that it educates others to understand that your body is, you know, has to repair itself. And, you know, you can help that. And it sounds like, you know, you're talking about the fact that you did more damage than good, because how are you to know any different? You were doing what you knew to be good, to make you feel good and be good for your body, which was going on a hike. And so you did damage, you said.
Yes. Yeah. So I returned to exercise too fast and too hard, and too soon after my experience with delivery, and yeah, doing further damage, but also not acknowledging my body for the situation and the considerations that it had, not acknowledging it, not wanting to acknowledge it, that my body had failed me. Just thrash it out kind of thing. I'm fit, I'm healthy, I can do this. But it's that mentality of, hang on a second, let's soften, let's just reflect, let's heal from the inside out, let's repair from the inside out, let's take this minute by minute. See how you're feeling each minute. Don't just think, oh, tomorrow I might do this, so I'll go and do it. Wake up, see how you feel, start slowly. And all of this is in hindsight, of course, but it's through the experience that I had that I then did further research, further accreditation in postnatal training, and further knowledge in a plethora of situations that can occur from pregnancy, labour and delivery, and then in that postnatal period. And that postnatal period can go on for forever. I mean, we're all postnatal if we've had a pregnancy and a baby. We're forever. There's no sort of time limit on it. And I reached out then. It was only at that stage that I connected with a women's health physio.
Okay.
Now at that stage, a women's health physio is like a golden star that every woman who is pregnant or thinking about becoming pregnant really needs to connect with throughout their pregnancy, for the support, physical and emotional support, but also postnatally, with whatever the outcome. Really needing to connect with women's physio, women's health physio. They're able to assess pelvic floor tone, pelvic floor function. They're able to assess abdominal separation, which I had a lot of. They're able to help with any lower back issues and support the pelvis. So connecting with a women's health physio gave me that stepping stone to know, okay, this is how I can exercise safely now. Let's bring that with my postnatal experience of training, and let's blend the two together. So connecting with that women's health physio, was my road to recovery.
Yeah. And I think, you know, you already had the tools in terms of understanding your body and, you know, how it all works. But this is a totally different, you know, use of muscles, and this is your body needing to repair itself in a totally different way. So that is like you said, the golden star. That is great advice, to engage with a women's health physio, regardless of your outcome postnatally, and even perhaps before delivery too. So you understand some of the things that you can do to help that recovery. But these are the things that, you know, again, it's that informed pregnancy, informed understanding, and informed choice, so that you have an option to be able to choose the path you need for whatever that type of healing is, you know, regardless of outcome. So, you know, you went on to, you know, study more and understand more. And, you know, I suppose, you know, through your own journey with your body, did you come to a point of forgiveness of your body, and, you know, being okay with the fact that you still grew this beautiful boy, and that the realization and understanding that you didn't do anything wrong, because you did everything right on the basis of what you were armed with. And, you know, this is where innocence, you know, truly is not our friend in that scenario, is that we deserve, you know, to be informed and deserve to have that information. And you did everything in your power that you knew to do.
Mm.
And you birthed and created this beautiful, perfect boy that you describe in Alexander. Did you come to a point of forgiveness, and or have you? And if you have, how long did it take you to get to that point?
Wow, it's a very powerful question. I might just continue on a little bit before I answer that question.
Okay, yeah, please.
I think what comes next interrupts that process. So I was on the path then to physical recovery, and that then helped my mental recovery. Mm-hmm. When it came time for myself and my husband to feel ready to try again, to have a baby brother or sister for Alexander, we really struggled. It took about 18 months for me to fall pregnant, and it was on just a few days, maybe a month or two months before Alex's second anniversary. So it was early October that his second anniversary was. So I discovered I was pregnant 2 months before Alex's second anniversary. And that was just, I didn't know how to process that. I had been trying so hard to become pregnant. It wasn't an easy journey for me, like it was with Alex. And finding out that I was pregnant then came with a load of snowball of emotions. I wanted to give this beautiful new baby the acknowledgement and the respect of its pregnancy, and my pregnancy being a different one. I didn't feel sick. It was a completely different pregnancy. And this really shocked. It's still sort of, I can't really find the words for this, but on the exact day of Alex's second anniversary, I experienced a miscarriage of my second pregnancy. And the timing and the outcome and just everything involved with that came along with that is just so incomprehensible. I still can't to this day fathom that. So going back to your earlier question about forgiveness and moving on, that stopped me in my tracks of that process, that path that I was on. It took me a few steps back.
Understandably so. I mean, that is, devastation, heightened and trauma layered.
Cruel.
Like
It's just cruel.
Life, that's nasty. Seriously, what else do you need to be dealt? This is, and on, his birthday.
Yes.
His memorial, his day.
Yes.
Oh, far out. Okay. So, wow. So you fell pregnant after a long period of trying, and then you miscarried on Alexander's, anniversary, 2-year anniversary, his birthday. And so you stepped back, you took multiple steps back, you regressed massively.
Yes.
And I'll let you continue. Sorry for interrupting. It's just
that's okay.
That's
good.
Devastating.
It's just
devastating.
It just doesn't, I just can't even compute it. But to then pick myself up again, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, mentally, all of those things, and try to then find one foot in front of the other following both of those experiences was, it was very tough, and it took a very long time. And it really impacted the next couple of years in terms of, yes, myself and my husband did want a family with us. We wanted a physical family. We wanted brothers and sisters for Alex. And to go on that path of getting my head around, let's keep going with this. But this is what could happen again. Kind of, it was just was just really messing with me. So it took 3 years after that, and a lot of different therapies, a lot of different stress relievers, I guess, in terms of trying to just keep me as relaxed as I could be to try and conceive. And then on the path of looking down the path of IVF and having a few initial consultations and moving into that realm that I couldn't fathom, because I'd fallen pregnant so easily with Alex. And then, yes, it had been hard to become pregnant again, but then 3 years, I'm like, come on, this is what I don't know. We're about to completely give up. And then I found out that I was pregnant again in 2012. So then was it? Yeah, and the timing of things. So in 2013, I delivered a healthy baby boy, and he is incredible and was incredible and very healthy and just amazing. So he also has a younger brother. So I have 2 healthy, beautiful boys at home with me. But they know they have a big brother. We visit Alexander. They know about Alexander. They don't really understand what happened, but they know that they had a big brother that is no longer here with us. And that's very hard for them to try and compute as well, I guess. But we like to talk about and include Alex wherever we can.
They'll grow up knowing him, even though they never met him, which I think is, totally understandable. And, you had those, you said the rainbow is a special sign for you. Is that something that you have utilized in terms of Alex's memory with your boys?
Absolutely. So just in the start of the year, my 4-year-old brought me home a rainbow picture from kinder, so I could think of Alex. So he gave me that from kinder. Here's a rainbow for you, Mama. So we can all think of Alex when we look at the rainbow. So yes, we certainly.
That would have like melted your heart and made you feel, just so engulfed with love, like that understanding of, and the validation of his brother in that one simple act as well. How special. Did that make you feel like he was, part of your family still, that Alex was, being remembered, even though, his brothers and his younger brothers, his younger brothers will never meet him. They're growing, he's growing up with them. Was that sort of like what it was like? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just that slight acknowledgement, there's a rainbow, then that brings to their mind Alex. And it doesn't have to be in their mind all the time, but it's just that little special reminder that, yes, I have an older brother that that was in our family and still is an important part of our family as well. And my son might be outside with the hose on a sunny day, and he'll shine it. He's like, "Look at the rainbows in the hose." Let's think of Alex. So it's all those special little moments that mean so much. That it's just something for our family and something very special for me as well to remember Alex.
Yeah, that is incredibly special to have those signs that you can, clasp onto. I mean, as much as I obviously would wish it's so different for you, I'm sure everybody listening and watching 100% would. And for your whole family, I think, it's nice that there are still things that bring Alex, to the forefront as he deserves to be. And, thank you for sharing that, because I'm sure that, there's a lot of families that have those little moments that bring them hope and love. And remembrance as well for their children.
Yeah.
So you have this gorgeous family, and 3 beautiful boys, 2 with you, and 1 that presents in rainbows throughout your life, which is an incredibly joyous symbolism, beautiful. And you continue your journey in your career, and you started is this where you had Zen body. I also understand that tiny ladder is another area of your path. You know, how did that come to be? Was it sooner or later? Was it after the you know, your next you know, and subsequent pregnancies? Where does that fit in? And take us through what you want to and what you are achieving with that.
Thank you. Yes. So tiny ladder represents those small steps that I took, that other mums take on their journey through health and fitness after pregnancy loss. And it did come about after the birth of my youngest boy, when I felt physically ready, emotionally ready, and confident and comfortable enough to share my story. So to be able to be comfortable and talk to other mums who have angel babies, and to be able to work through and help them on their fitness journey, while they move through their emotional journey and their grieving process, and to be able to help them in a safe and comfortable environment. That really is what encompasses Tiny Ladder. They're able to meet and talk and train with other women who have a similar experience. I say similar because every experience is completely different. So to have that space to talk and to be heard, and to train to repair from the inside out physically, it is a blend of my personal experience, but also my professional experience leading up to that time. I felt that when I wanted to return to exercise, I didn't have the knowledge of a women's health physio. I didn't have the knowledge of where to go postnatally without a baby. I didn't fit into mums and bubs classes. I couldn't go back to a general fitness class. My postnatal body couldn't handle those exercises. I didn't feel comfortable talking to the manager at the gym or the gym instructor and say, oh, hey, I can't do this because I'm postnatal. So how old's your baby? When did you? And all those questions that come along that perhaps I didn't feel in a comfortable environment to discuss. So I found that there was a real need and a real calling for women who have experienced pregnancy loss, stillbirth, neonatal loss, is to have that safe space. And I'm striving and continuously trying to evolve Tiny Ladder to be just that, and to be the best source of sort of information postnatally without a baby. That's how it's all evolving at the moment.
And I think it's a wonderful thing for people to look into. I think because we do forget ourselves. So, even just in the way, you have shared your story and, bared your soul as well, and allowed others to see into that, that blame game that goes through your psyche that, many women are faced with, which is, my body failed, what did I do wrong? It's hopeless, and just, not even understanding that where to start. So being able to have that safe space, because you're so right, this mask of grief that you wear post loss, can feel so obvious that everyone just knows that this is broken. Can't you see this is broken? I have no idea where to start to fix this. And I think, Tiny Ladder is a wonderful tool, for people to seek, to try and just begin those small steps and to climb the rung and I love the fact that you talk about, healing from the inside out, but you're talking physically healing, and using, you're using what your body does have, and to try and, trying to heal that way, but also, having that space, that safe space to be able to talk if you want to, but without judgment if you don't, and to just know that there are people that actually get you. Okay, I don't know where to start here, and I just don't want to do anything today. Okay, well, let's help you to try and reach that next rung, and to move forward, and to learn to live with this, whatever this is for you, and to travel that journey alongside, way in which to have that sense of camaraderie out of something so debilitating and awful that, no one would ever wish upon another. And I think you talked about that early on, that, this is not something you want anyone to experience. And I think your eloquent storytelling, and, I'm so very, very thankful for what you have been able to share with us and with, listeners and people that are watching. And I suppose I would love to know, from you, if there are 3 top takeaways that you would like to offer people, in this journey, whatever this is for them, in pregnancy, in whatever that is. What are the things that you want people to know that they can do in pregnancy or post delivery?
Wow, only 3?
Well, you can have a plethora of, I suppose. Yeah, if you can, if you can. And look, if you don't want to do 3, do 1, do whatever you want. I think it's nice to have those things to say, okay, so these are the things I want, that I can have, and the things that you want women to know, from your journey. What are your gifts you want to impart onto them from your knowledge?
My first one, in no particular order, but maybe, my first one is just trust your gut instinct. I think that is a paramount. Trust and act on your gut instinct. So trust it. Yes. Oh, my gut's not telling me something here, and then don't be talked out of it. So act on that. And you're not putting anybody out. You're not, burdening anybody. If you turn up to the hospital, you think something's not right, or just want to check in, I'm not feeling so like I did yesterday, or what have you. So trust your gut instinct. The next one would be reach out to a women's health physiotherapist. Pretty much when you call your obstetrician or your hospital, or when you find out that you're pregnant, reach out to a women's health physiotherapist. And I understand that there can be barriers in that, whether it be access geographically or financially, or various aspects that might make that a little bit more challenging. I think that will be easier in the future to be able to do that. But yes, so trust your gut instinct, reach out to a women's health physio. I might go with 2 more.
Go for it.
Squeeze it in. Start slowly when returning to exercise. You are in your postnatal body. And my last one is your smile will return. It may take time. You are not alone, and you've got a lot of support if you reach out for it. That's
Yeah. Brilliant. I love that. Your smile will return. I think it's sometimes really hard in the heart of, in the depths of sorrow and pain and grief, trauma, whatever you're facing. It's sometimes really hard to see that, but to know that, you're not alone, and your smile will return is a wonderful gift to leave people with, I think. And your smile is infectious, Lauren, and I love that you have come out of this journey providing and gifting women something that you feel you wish you had. And I think that that's a wonderful, wonderful strength in your grief and pain that you have been able to impart and provide for others. So I am very, very thankful that you have shared your story today, that, like I said before, you have bared your soul. And I hope, and I know, in fact, no, I don't hope, I know that there'll be plenty of people that would have listened or watched this, episode and this our chat today, and will have gained so much from this. So whatever, you know, their journey is, I think, you know, it's nice to know that, you know, these sorts of conversations can be there to help them and walk alongside with them, whatever their journey is. So thank you so much, Lauren. And, you know, we will make sure that if people want to ask questions that they can. So I know that, you know, they can reach out to you. Do you want to just tell us where to find you? I think you said Zenbody.
Oh, yes. So Zenbody, I'm working through tinyladder.com.au is my website. So tinyladder.com.au. And I'm also sometimes on Instagram and Facebook under Tiny Ladder as well. It's very hard in these times to sort of keep up with the socials. But yeah, so tinyladder.com.au is how to reach me, and you can email me through that or send me a message and we can connect that way. So please reach out if you feel this really connects with you.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you.
And thank you, Alexander, for, you know, your special mum. So I really, yeah, again, thanks, Lauren. And thanks to all of you for tuning in, listening, watching, and being with us. And look, I look forward to you joining us again. Thanks for joining us today. And we look forward to you joining us again next time. Remember, it's never too early to have a conversation, but it really can be too late. If you'd like to know more about Still Aware, the charity that's bringing you this series, head to stillaware.org.